Yes! Film Gods! Back again with another one. Welcome, first time listeners. I am your host, Isusko Garcia. The name is from the Basque region of Spain. Mis abuelos, my grandparents, came from Sestao. And we are here, living in London. 2 generations later, working in the film industry, making beautiful things for lots of wonderful people to see. On the socials, I am the time scheduler. And this podcast was a starting point for me to talk to film crew, the crew and cast that are working in the industry right now, to have somewhere for film students and just people to get an understanding of what the industry does. A place to have a voice and just to document our film family generation. Now it's Easter Sunday, it's 2025, it's 5 years on from when we first started, and I just, as always, want to send out love to all you beautiful human beings that are listening across the globe. Some really amazing countries that are honest. I don't know how you're listening. I don't know how you found it. But big love. Today's guest, I've had the honour and privilege of being the first AD on a few of his food commercials. And I think the importance that I wanted to kind of have with this episode is that for some creative departments, having a speciality, having a niche, like Nicky Faulkner, our stunt driver, said, he's like, look, however many years ago, 20 years ago, stunts would have, the stunt people would have needed to be able to have a multitude of abilities. So, ride horses, skydiving, this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. But actually, he said now, if you want to have someone that does bike riding, you'd go to a specific niche person that just does that. And if you want stunt driving, you go to someone like him. And if you want, so you've now got people specializing, and our guest today specializes in food. He's a food photographer and a food director, and the respect and the knowledge that he has for the craft that he has is second to none. And I think seeing how he works and being on those kind of sets, that level of respect that he has for his craft then just filters down to everyone else. And you have his DP, every time I work with him, it's been Tim Green, and amazing, beautiful human being that just can make these lovely little rigs. And he's got these Dado kits on, little Moco rigs, just to give the food a little bit more texture and colour and shape. And when you look at it, you'd never know the behind the scenes. But if you saw the behind the scenes, you're like, oh, wow, it's a lot of effort and time and creative endeavor that goes into what we shoot. So I'm very honored and blessed that he has said yes to coming onto the podcast. I just want to give a shout out to anyone out there who is in the industry having a bit of a hard time. There's so many people that I've spoken to that have said that the last year and a half has been their toughest and has been their hardest, and they haven't had the normal choices. So it's not been 2-3 pencils a week, 2-3 weeks in advance. It's just, you know what? You're going to be doing a night shoot out in Reading. And you just say thank you. And you thank your lucky stars that you've got something in. The tables are turning. Everything that goes down must come up. The bow has to be brought back to be fired forward. And that's all that's happening, is that the bow has been being pulled back. The thumb has nearly reached the chin or the cheek, or however you do it. And it's just about to fly off. So prepare yourselves for an amazing time. I send lots of love to everyone. I say thank you to our sponsors, Creative Caves. I want to give a shout out to Cine Certified again. And as a last kind of shout out, please go and listen to last week's Last Swim with Sasha Nathwani. He is a dear friend. He is a fantastic colleague. He is an amazing director. And he is the future, and our generation are the future of British film industry. He is an independent film director that has been able to go out and turn an idea into a script and get that script turned down and turned down and turned down and turned down until eventually someone said yes, and people put the money forward, and has made something so beautiful and so wonderful that if you're lucky enough to go and see it in the cinema, please do. There's some nice little bits. I'm not going to tell you. No spoilers. But there's a few little moments that will have you laughing. A few little moments that have you crying. A couple of moments that will have you jumping out your seat. But please go and listen. Please go and listen to last week's episode. But please, more importantly, go and watch Last Swim. It's up and down the country in the UK. It'll more than likely be around on the streaming services, I'm sure, at some point. So go check it out. And ladies and gents, let's get to the app.
Ladies and gentlemen.
So, Film God Familia, welcome to another episode of the Film Gods. I'm very honoured and blessed to have our guest on today. I've seen him and his team in action, and it has given me a newfound respect for the medium of what he does and the niche that he does it in. Because for us as film crew, what he did and what he does would always be the thing that we'd always be rushing at towards the end of a day. We'd be trying to get this beautiful shot of something that looks tasty. And I go onto a set of his and I see that the passion and the artistry that it takes to make something look so fucking tasty. And I honestly, anyone around the globe has probably seen some of his work and their belly has started rumbling. So, ladies and gents, no more from me. What is your name and what is your role on the call sheet?
My name is Scott Grummett and I am a food photographer and director.
Amazing. So, when was that first moment that you were like, I love photography, and you know what? Love filming food.
Photography was is an odd one. I worked in pub. Well, I was kind of in a good school and said I wanted to go and do that, and wasn't sure that I wanted to go to university. And they literally said to me that I was no use to them then.
As the cash cow.
I wasn't hitting the statistics, so I just sort of then went on a bit of a jolly, went and made some stuff, traipsed around some fields, took some pictures of windmills, managed to get myself into
Windmill Weekly.
Well, just go out with a camera and try and take pictures and make stuff as a 17-year-old with nothing to take pictures of, sort of thing. And shot bands and things, and got into college and kind of went through it that way. Food I've always been a food person. I think myself, I kind of sell myself now more as a food person who does film and stills.
Nice.
Yeah. So food sort of came from moving into London in the heart of the recession, having just graduated, coming down, going, I'm here. Obviously, there was no work whatsoever.
Look at my windmills. Give me a job.
All of that stuff. I was doing lots of still life, and still life was kind of drying out. And I had the option of kind of going to do, a morning shooting David Beckham or 2 weeks in food. And you kind of went, actually, yeah, business wise, this makes sense. And actually, I'm sort of enjoying that more than shooting David Beckham. Sat waiting for most of the day. So yeah, I kind of fell into it that way and started doing assisting and shooting more and more food myself, and going into restaurants and shooting their stuff and eating what they were eating what I was shooting and having a nice time, really. Yeah.
Food for me, it's really difficult at times where you get given a brief and a shot, and it is just something that doesn't look, you kind of go, how do I make this look really tasty? And I honestly, some of these like extra close up super macro stuff that you've done, there's such a talent and a skill to to making it look great, and the team that you kind of wrapped around you with the lighting and home economist, I guess that just one must make it much easier to make something look so beautiful. But at what stage do you get to the point where the relinquish of control to kind of go, "Right, I'm not going to light myself. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that." At what point do you feel, at what point did it happen and become that actually the bigger the team, the better the job, if that is something that felt like it happened?
Yeah, I can't really think of the moment that it did, but it definitely sort of post-pandemic for me, I suddenly um realized the level of the team sport nature of it, I would say. And we have a really good one. Everybody we work with is really good and really nice. I
Mm.
think it makes a big difference of everybody is in the trenches together for the most part of who we work with, and that sort of drives us on and we always have a good day.
Just talk us through your process of how the client comes to you, what they give you, how much creative you can have into it, and then how much you need to pitch on it, and what ideas they allow you to have. How creative can you be with an idea?
I would say that varies massively. I mean, my favorite bit of the job in a way is that I can just be on a quiet Tuesday afternoon and go out and cut the grass, and then suddenly three or four different insane ideas come in of like, hey, would you like to blow this up? I'm like, yeah, cool. Let's see how we go about that. In terms of the brief, it varies massively. Sometimes you get a full storyboard,
Hmm.
pretty much every shot drawn out, and in a way that's kind of good, but then you're just facilitating something, and sometimes you kind of try to talk people down out of things, and it's quite hard to say to an agency, look, I don't think you've got this right. I think we can, well, I think we can make it better is probably
Mm.
the better phrasing of it.
And is
And
that just from their data that they've gone out and done research and they've gone, people want to see this, and then boarded off that?
I would say it's from the bigger corporations which come from testing and things like that. So there are
Hmm.
a couple of places I know where bonuses get paid on testing. And so everything goes in of, okay, so this is us seeing the product here. This is us showing a right-handed person opening this, then doing this with it. And then they use the right hand from the other side. And then this, and it all becomes a kind of formulaic process, which,
Hmm.
let's face it, no one wants to watch. You go so far down the testing thing, and nothing's creative anymore. I would talk about the Cadbury's Gorilla, where it kind of has nothing to do with it, but we all know what it's for, right?
Didn't see any chocolate. It was their biggest ad.
Yeah, Gorilla playing the drums. I know exactly who that is. Yeah. So there's a bit of that. But then sometimes I've had agencies recently come to me and just say, you'll have a brief of, yeah, we've just won this bread company. Bread. What would you reckon? We're kind of struggling. And you go, well, hang on, how did you win this massive advertising pitch for your agency? And I kind of go away and not totally do the creative, but often pitch ideas back or sort of weirdly say, oh, I would, you could do this, or this. But I personally like working more from that side of trying to work out a couple of angles on what they're doing. Are you trying to make it more delicious? Are you trying to make it more expensive? Are you trying to make it more accessible? There's things like whiskey. Sometimes they're not trying to sell more whiskey because they haven't got any. They made it 12 years ago. It's selling too quick. They're trying to make it more expensive and up the price,
Mm.
things like that. So I kind of really like digging into that bit and following on. And then I love a treatment. I love that sort of creative direction and pushing everything ahead of the day so that everybody can see what we're doing. I'm big on that process and getting into all the meetings before so they have no questions almost. And you go, look, this is how we start it and why. This is the feeling of it. This is the light. This is each bit of food you're going to see. And we're going to do this and this is going to move. And that's what's going to make your brain chemistry whir and get you excited. And this little, if we see a tomato, I want it to squeeze in the sandwich and a bit of juice comes out and touches this and whatever. I'm kind of pretty big on that process of booking things in ahead of time,
Hmm.
making clients feel safe. There's normally so many of them now where you just want them to feel good and safe and excited. Give yourself a bit of wiggle room because, stuff can happen a little bit, but I'm almost at a point now where on set, I kind of see these. You hear stories from you guys where it's like, oh, we were on set and the director ripped it up and we just shot it on the hoof and it was this and it was that. And then we had this idea and just did this instead. Kind of go, "Oh, maybe I should be doing that. I should be going nuts. Or what if I ripped it up? Should I be more of a, I don't know, more of that person? But I think I kind of am doing better and creating better things now just by doing the process and making everybody safe and calm and having time to, you know, finesse those things. Um,
Look, mate, from an AD's perspective, the more work the director's done when we go on set and you've got all those questions and you can get an honest, well thought out answer because it's not just on the fly. So much easier. It's so much better to walk onto a well prepared set. And look, 'cause shit's going to go wrong. Even on the most well prepared set, something is going to go wrong. There's always going to be a slight curveball that gets thrown at us. But if you've done the homework, if you've done that work, it's easier to bounce to somewhere because you know all the no's. You're not having to then work through all of the no's to then find a new yes.
yeah, and knowing what that shot is about, whether it's about deliciousness or movement or a transition to take you into something else that times with the music and build something up. At least then if you're solving the problem, you kind of know what what you're trying to get it to do and you can find a way out of it. It always comes back for me when I started moving into film, somebody, the producer I was working with, mate in the pub one day who was in the industry somewhere, I can't remember where, said to me, like, have you worked out what your personality as a director is going to be? I was like, I don't know what
As
you
in
mean.
visually or just on set.
Just as a person, as like the character you will play as a director. And it was like, what do you mean? He was like, yeah, but are you going to be like mad and edgy? Are you going to be aloof? Will you talk to people? Will you be slightly crazy? Will you be calm? It's like, I don't really know what you mean. And so now I kind of feel like I'm this slightly calm, chill guy, but the I kind of haven't quite left that. And you can see the difference between stills and film, where you have to kind of get into your own
Mm.
over and perform a little bit. You'll see, like on a film set, you'll see me turn up in a weird, like green jumpsuit or something every now and again because I feel like it's almost like me trying to psych myself up into like, oh no, I need to be the creative person that day, and for the
Mm.
clients to feel like you're being creative enough for them.
Yeah, I mean I just the way that you are on the film sets that I've had the privilege of seeing you on, you being you is so much better than you trying to pretend that you're someone else. You
Yeah,
know, you're you're a nice dude that talks to everyone. That isn't, I mean, I've been on. Oh, Jesus, there was one film set, and I'm not going to say who and what, but the directors didn't want to see anyone, so he had like this wall of tents going from their door into the middle of the stage, and you're like, that doesn't breed, for me, being a massive kind of the feel and the energy of a film set. As soon as you've got that one, and it only takes one person, and it can be anyone in the crew that just doesn't fit, the whole energy and the flow then suddenly changes. And I mean, you turning up in a jumpsuit with, I don't know, with a mohawk and a big cigar with some Elton John sunglasses. I don't like if people know you, they're like, why the fuck is Scott dressed up like Elton John here? What's going on?
yeah. All those things come from fear or whatever a little bit.
Mm,
Suddenly, you're not in control of all those people, but everybody, if something goes wrong, everybody turns around and looks at you and goes,
yeah, okay.
be creative now, solve a problem here. Can't cost much money.
Yeah.
Yeah, quick. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think like I started directing when I was really young. I was really
Mm,
do that and kind of sneak in the back door to film and so on through stills where I think people would look at me and go, oh, he kind of doesn't know what he's talking about because I didn't speak the language.
hmm
But he would say something to me like, oh, do you just want it on sticks? And I was like, what do you mean?
mm.
Oh, a tripod. Yeah, sure. No, yeah, it's just a lock off. The camera's not moving. It's fine. And you kind of see him look at me and go like that. Oh, is this guy all right? And I think now actually I've done enough stuff. Everybody on set is kind of, most of the time is the team you work with a lot and goes, Oh yeah, no, it's Scott. It's fine. We'll do that. Like, how do you want
Hmm.
it to do this or do that? And that calmness then comes because you're sort of a really good team then.
Hmm.
You kind of, yeah, I don't have to do any of that stuff or try and impress anybody or be anybody else because most of them know me already and tell me to shut up.
Yeah, well, they've seen you. They've seen you kind of problem solve, and that difference between stills and motion. I guess for most people that don't really know it, it's lights and it's camera. What's the difference? But do you? Is there a much different process apart from the words used that you go into the process of prep for a stills or for a motion?
Sometimes I'd say the stills is much harder to light, I would say. It's less forgiving, all your whites block out, or you have things where something moves. If you're trying to shoot a drip in a still and it's not in the right place, in motion, it's kind of like, oh, that's just a second. We can move on because it's done it sometimes. I think that kind of stuff is blockier and it's much slower. Every now and again, you get a film person who ends up on a still set and goes, geez, okay, is this it? 3 shots today? Is it? How are we going to fill the day? And then you've got like, you're in an hour's overtime and they're struggling, going, hang on, what we're doing? We've got to get this done. It's just a much slower, much gentler thing to push along. But I mean,
Mm,
ultimately, it's the same. It's the same thing. You're trying to make something delicious, but there's just less places to hide, I would say.
mm.
Every single thing, because you're just looking at it for the whole time and can't, nothing about it can give. Not that it can on, not that on film it can, but if it's a
Be a
second
little
and
bit more forgiving. Yeah, it can be a little bit more forgiving.
in film, well, for both, you're always trying to draw your eye to a certain part of the screen. But
Mm,
if there's a drip on a sandwich on film and there's like a tiny little scratch on something somewhere else, you can kind of forgive it a little bit more.
mm.
Whereas on stills, your eye's going to go there and then just dance around the whole screen.
Yes, and that actually, I kind of want to because the jobs that I've seen you do and your website is beautiful and everything is just so gorgeous. It's got to take time to get to that point where you've collated enough work that the best bits are what's on the website and just this fucking tasty, colorful. Food for me is always about color and passion, and everyone's got their own emotion about food. What my one question that I'd want to just start bouncing into that world is there that one job? Was there that one time that you got a brief, that you got a script that you were like, and you committed to it and you did it, and then you look back and you go, that was the point that I suddenly felt confident in myself for stills, for food, for that one job. For some people, whoever did it, but it was like M&S food just suddenly just changed everything in film. But for you, for your journey to this point, when did you start to feel like stills and food, you could be like, yeah, okay, this is it. I'm here. I'm starting to now. I've hit I'm on this new plateau and I'm on the rise up.
I mean, there's kind of tons of little steps as they go along, I guess. Um, I don't know that there's one. I think within the work, I kind of, you have those little junctures where you suddenly get known and then you get a bigger job and a bigger job. Mackie D's is obviously the thing that I think I'm best known for. And I think that first job with them, we did breakfast a few years ago with Fergal as stills, and the head of marketing at the time, Tom, was saying I made him nervous.
Hmm.
And I like, I
Because of the experience and because they have a very niche, or what do you think
because
where that nervousness came from?
I pushed it a bit, I think.
Hmm.
I mean, the agency, the creative directors there, brilliant. Jim and Andy are so good. Um, and we ended up just kind of pushing the food a bit. And, I was kind of saying to the marketing guy, I want to make it feel more like food. I want to make it rougher. And we had like um, the English muffins and we cracked them and put so many mistakes and crumbs and things were kind of topsy turvy in it. And he came back and he went, no, this is good. This is good. and they kind of liked it, and I think that's what kind of got me in there, and which they keep me very busy, and that's been a nice one to go on. But I think that was a big confidence thing in saying, no, no, I'm somebody who knows what I'm doing, and
Mm.
actually I need to push my opinion within the kind of world of food. Is actually, even if it's a brand like that, you have a bigger sense of what's going on within food, and that sort of feeling of you're almost like a creative director within a niche,
Mm.
not just somebody to facilitate the brief. And that's why they come to you as opposed to someone else.
I like that. And it's that the the idea and the belief that the imperfection of the food makes it tastier because it seems more relatable. In my head, you know, you carve it with a thing, and you probably, some people like sand down the front of the muffin so it's a straight line. But actually, the reality of the food is what makes it more relatable, and that's why I love, the one that's come out now, which is that we did those extreme close-ups of just those small little movements, and it's so iconic. McDonald's is so iconic. The food is, it. You can just split second see it and you go, oh, it's an egg McMuffin. Oh, that's a Big Mac. Oh, that's a thing. There must be, for that level of brand, and I'm not sure how, if there is a bigger brand out there doing food to the level across the globe that it is, but they probably have such strict protocols that actually coming in and having that confidence to say, do you know what, let's try something different. That relationship between the agency, between the creators, and between yourselves, that needs to be solid before I guess they'll trust anyone to then start to change.
Yeah. And we did a couple more projects with them, and then I got sent the global brand guidelines, and they'd put
Ooh.
in shots that we'd done.
Game changer.
It said don't do this. It had
Oh
like a
shit.
couple of scripts, and it was like too messy. Don't do this, don't do that. Like this is too loose. And then, the creators would give me another gig and go, let's just do more of that. Let's do it again. And we're going, yeah, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. And the clients are going, the clients within our territory are going, do it as well. Yeah, we trust you. We think it's getting better. And I think now, like the other territories are doing that as well. The global brand guidelines have changed slightly, and it's looser. I'll claim it's me. It's probably a bigger shift culturally in food and all of those things. But I think we've been
Mm,
part of that. And I think, Mackey's is one example, but it's just whatever brief you're on, just trusting that gut feeling of what that visceral moment is. And it could be about camera movement, or it could be about food, or it could be about light, or whatever it is you're doing, but just kind of going, no, no, I've got this. I'm going to dig my heels in on the right places and push that, especially on the food. I think, that's the star. That's the thing which stands out. And I think there's so much in our territory at the moment as well, where there's a lot of like 70s cookbook imagery and this kind of like retro feel of, it feels like a kind of snowy hotel in the hills in America in the 80s or something, and it's a cocktail lounge, but the food doesn't look great. And I
mm.
think it's, the people who I really respect, and I think if I'm competing against, I feel sweaty on, are the ones that, the food always looks amazing. That's what the client, if the food doesn't look good, there's nothing in it. It can be as cool as you want, but it's kind of, the product's dead. Yeah.
And then I guess being at the being at the forefront of this new wave of food and real and crumbs on plates and just the imperfection. Where does that take you around the world? Are you shooting all over? Do you try and mainly stay in Europe because that's the sensibilities that you're aware of? Or now that the rest of the world is catching up, do you feel and do you get the chance to go and shoot in different countries?
Varies. I'm lucky I travel a lot. I'm probably 50-50 stills and motion, and then I'm away abroad maybe 30-40%, well, 30-40% of the time, depending on the year. It varies, year to year.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I might, at the moment I've got a request for Canada, um, talking to Germany and Holland about various things, but a lot of it is similar brands. You might be shooting for a global campaign somewhere else, or you might be shooting for the same brand and then shooting it in Holland. I did a lovely project in South Africa last year in Johannesburg, kind of trying to get their food seen up for their big. They've got this massive chicken brand called Chicken Licken, which is like, the food looks like chicken shop corner, kebab shop chicken,
Yes.
and trying to make that look good whilst there's like rolling blackouts and like you can't have the budget was low, couldn't have Moco because there's kind of, electrical surges and stuff.
Mm.
Try to make all of that work in a kind of different place. But
How do you do that? How do you take something that wants to get your level to it, but doesn't have, I mean, obviously they must just trust you and they just say, do whatever you think. But how do you elevate a product, a company, a brand in your niche?
I think, well, if it's an international one, you tend to have more trust anyway. They're paying
Mm.
you money to fly in. They kind of go, okay, this is definitely the guy. We've all backed it, so let him cook. Um, which you kind of want on any job anyway. But when you've got 20 clients, it's different. I think the job is always about making something that's possible. So the tech thing is kind of one thing. There's always the budget thing and taking a brief and going, okay, this is how we split it up. This is how we make it possible. We have our food moments, we have our transitions. There's always a matrix of 1,000 different outputs that you have to make work. The food thing, how you elevate something like that, I mean, it varies product to product. Like the fried chicken's all about texture and kind of admitting it's slightly filthy. I think it's kind of, it is what it is, right?
Mm.
Fried chicken, don't try and make it a kind of sanitized thing, make it kind of earthy and grubby. They wanted it to feel more premium, so they've got all of this kind of packaging we worked on that feels more like sort of Louis Vuitton paper, in like the greaseproof paper underneath and so on, and little touches like that, where
Mm.
it's not just like white and basic and a red cardboard box, kind of help it, made it darker and moodier and yeah, more about that sort of textural thing. I mean, there's no hard and fast rule. Some things are always going to be a bit of a challenge, and you play with it and see what happens, I guess. Yeah.
What's the most fun you've had on set? Which brand just let you loose, or which one just felt like this was a super nice, exciting, new, or insert whatever you want word there. But what one do you look back on now and you go, yeah, I'm really fucking proud of that?
I've had on set. Oh, I don't know. That's a real stumper. Because weirdly, the most fun, I'd love to say it's the thing of like, oh, it's the one where we just blew all the stuff up in slow motion.
Mm.
It's kind of a gimme. I always love just like the little any job where we have the little tinkering of stuff, where Tim Green's in there with six little mirrors and we just move
I
something.
love it. Yeah, yeah. He's got two little motion control rigs of different lights, and Komorebi just threw these little dingles and stuff like that. Yeah, it's nice. Loved it.
Yeah, I think it's that where everything kind of comes together, or you just do those any moment where you just add a little something, you go, oh yes, 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 now it's happening, now it's happening, now it's happening.
Mm.
That's always it. I think weirdly, one of the most fun bits I've had on set is the job that is nowhere near my website. It's not the best output I've
Hmm.
made, but we shot in Istanbul. We had a 4-day shoot, way too many shots. The whole thing escalated. Uh, it was a real lesson. I was super sick. I was literally on set with a drip plugged into my
Oh God.
sustained in just peak times, right? So I'm
In like
rolling.
in your blue, in a blue kind of hospital gown, they're like, "Oh, this guy's the crazy director. He's turning up as the."
Yeah, it's like, drip gaffer tape to the wall trying to keep me alive. We had like the producer had to go onto another job. There was some sort of emergency on that, and it was just going crazy. But we all sort of client agency, all of the crew just sort of got into this like vibe and rhythm of like, no, we know what we're doing, we're going to do
Mm.
this next. And there's the kit was kind of limited. We were dropping overhead shots of like cameras on a vertical slide or a rope and
Wow.
dropping onion rings off it on a Phantom, trying to time it first time. I've got string stuff through it, but it was almost like, okay, I need to do a chicken shot. I've got chicken drop. I've got 15 minutes. Okay, let's do it. Strings through there, little weight, do this. I know what the rig is. I've done this before. Camera's just going to simplify in that. Let's shoot a bit wider. We can help it in post. Bang, bang, bang. Drop it. First shot. Everything's bang in focus. Explodes perfectly. Look at the client. Client goes, bang. Lovely.
Two thumbs up.
And we did that for like 2 days of like,
Wow.
it's not the most beautiful job we ever did, but what we did, and the whole crew were just like in a rhythm,
Mm.
just together, and made, you'd rather have had another 4 days to finesse it, but we just, everybody in that room knew what they were doing and were in the trenches together. And I think that feeling sometimes when you're on set and everybody is, excuse me, everybody is together, trying to do that thing at once. And you
Mm.
that little surge of energy of like, no, no, let's go, let's go, let's go, we can do it. Is just that's the most fun, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, agreed. When everyone knows what has to be done, and you just get into this rhythm where half the time you don't even need to say what needs to be said because they're just everyone's in sync. Boom, the
Yeah,
chicken's coming, the thing is coming, you've reset, you've got the thumbs up, you're moving on. It's a big dance. It's like one big dance, and we're all doing the salsa together, just watching chicken drop.
yeah.
Perfect.
And you kind of communicating in so few words where you're kind of like, I'll say to you, okay, shot two, we're going to do this. It's going to be one of those. Camera's going to do that. And you move to the next person. Like, okay, Lou, it's going to be one of these. Need the fishing wire. Remember we did on this. We're going to do that again. But just make it a bouncy away. Okay, food stylist team, rougher around it. Need a little bit more like this, and give me some crumbs, and we need more action off it. Okay, next, like, and you can just, you almost don't actually need to say that. You can look across the room and go, crumbs,
Mm.
crumbs, wave your hand. And like, yeah, yeah, sorry, he's got it in a tray. It's coming, it's coming. We're good, we're good. It's just like that kind of, yeah. Not only you're all in it together, but you're so kind of such a good team that it's kind of you got your own language in that point.
Mm. Secondhand stuff. Just doesn't even need to be said. It's already been thought about. I like it. I mean, we're getting close to kind of the 45-minute mark. And I always like to just, I think what you've done and what you've said and what we've learned is just, I think for me, there's an element of the passion for what you do. So you've niched and you got into food because it made sense at that time. And then taking ownership and control of that niche has then led you this many years later to be one of the people that global brands look at to come and help them, as you said, either make it look more expensive or make it look more relatable or make it look more real. And your ability to take a project, look at where you can add, put your own little stance on it, I think is the kind of message that I want people to understand and take away. It's like you don't have to, doing food doesn't mean you have to make it look like M&S or look like something else. Every piece, every brand, everything that you shoot has its own identity, and it's finding that identity and exploring it, chopping it down to then know how it can be magnified is what I'm taking away from this chat. Is there anything that I haven't asked or you think might be a useful little story or something for the listeners just to 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 know anymore?
No, I think you just kind of boiled it down there of really, yeah, it's about the food. For me, it's about food identity, I guess. That's kind of the big thing, and the gut feeling of what the food should be and how that impacts everything else. If you're saying it should be more expensive, it knocks on to props and lighting and music and all of those things. It builds out into a bigger brand thing again. So no, I think I don't think so. It's just making the food look delicious as well, isn't it? That's always the
Gotta be tasty. That's the thing. Every time I walk onto your set, I'm like, fuck. I'm going to be smelling this beautiful food, food all day, and anything that's left over comes round on a tray, and we're like, oh well, I'll just taste it, you know.
So you'll be smelling of less than beautiful food for the whole drive home. Yeah, on the train with somebody next to you, just going, "Oh, oh, where have you been? Who's been in the fryers today?" Yeah.
um, well, look, thank you for coming on. It's been a great little 45 chat. Now, on the film gods, the last two questions that we always have are just a nice way to kind of round off the ep. And I think the second to last, which we'll do first, will be the kind of advice to your younger self, and then we'll finish on the shout outs. But just to take you back to that moment that, say, for example, you've from what we've heard, you had a passion for photography. You knew
Mhm.
you weren't going to, being a doctor, being a lawyer, being someone that sat down at a desk all day, 9 to 5, wasn't going to be what excited you. You had the courage to turn around to a school that didn't want artists and creative people on the books, and you're like, no, I'm going to go off because I've got a passion and I know what I'm going to do. And you were, photographing bands and getting your back catalogue of windmills up and ready to kind of come to London. You've made the trek down to London. It seems like there's no work. It would be lovely just for you to just take a moment, have a think, and you're sitting next to that younger you that's done all of that work, that has this idea, that has this passion, that has this belief that photography is where you're going to go. What words do you have for that person now?
I mean, most of what we've spoken about today is actually about kind of trusting your gut feelings and you know pe that relationship of trust with other people. So the trust you have in the team, the client or creator's trust in you, and building that. So I think it's that sort of trust in yourself of who you are. I think looking back at my sort of journey, there's loads of bits in that where you look at like trying to tell your parents you want to go and do photography at college, and them going, yeah, probably. They sort of knew who I was and what I do.
Hmm.
Kind of went, yeah, of course he's going to go and do something like that. And kind of trusted me that if I put in the work, I would go and do it. And it's about, the respect for going and doing the work and putting the work into it. You've got to work so hard in this industry. I didn't eat that first year. I just ate, plain spaghetti and custard creams, and
I
it's
bet it
like,
looked really nice though.
yeah. Um, you still got and it's harder than ever to do that. But I think that's who I am as a person. So that's what I had to go and do.
Mm.
I can't imagine going and doing a job now. So that there's that trust in yourself. I think the kind of advice to the younger self, I always see people at college and there's like oh, well, I've taken these two pictures and then I've sent emails to these two photographers about assisting and no one's got back to me. And you're kind of like, yeah, probably like two. You messaged two people. Like, what have you been doing for that's
Mm.
8 to 8 in the morning. What have you been doing for the rest of the day? So I think it's kind of that make more stuff, make sort of make cool shit and show it to enough people. So it's kind of what are you making at the moment? If you're not making anything, you need to go and make something. Make cool stuff that you think is cool, not what anybody else is doing or whatever, just stuff you think is really cool, is good, is interesting, and then just show it to tons and tons and tons of people. And
Mm.
tons of people. I'm lucky I've got agents who are out there just showing my stuff to people all the time and hustling about, and they're really good. But that's, it's all about that as well. If no one knows it exists, you're a tree in the forest sort of thing. It's not gonna
Mm.
get anywhere. And I think those are always my big things. Yeah.
Love it. And it there was a book I was reading, and one of the analogies was it was like an American professor, photography, specifically photography, and he said like their end of year exam. They knew in the start of the year that they would have their final piece was going to be the vast majority of their mark. and he split the class into two sections. He said one, it was going to be about quantity, and one was just going to be about the single photo. And the side that did more had a better single photo at the end of it because they had learned and experienced and experimented. Whereas the ones that were just like, do as many as you want, doesn't need to be that many, and you'll just take that one photo for the end. They hadn't done as much. They hadn't been in as many trenches. They hadn't shot as many things. They hadn't learned who they were to tell the story of that one single photo. But the ones that did repeat, like the John Williams story for Jaws, because like, you know, the didn't, or that single didn't. Oh no, it was for the film where the aliens come down and they play the note.
Oh, man.
Oh God, my brain. Anyway, that film, he had done like 100 different versions of 5 notes, and I think that's the main thing that I'll take away. Close Encounters. Thank you. Boom. That
All the mash.
Yeah, you got to do. You got to do. The amount that you put in will equate to what you get out. If you sit on the couch and you take one photo in a month, the likelihood of you becoming a seasoned professional is very unlikely. But look, thank you, brother. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for your journey. Thank you for what you do. So now I give you the floor, and this is your chance to give a shout out to anyone or anything, or just hit us up with your socials.
Oh man, it's way too many people. It's team sports. We say of like there's so many people we work with all the time. So I don't know that I can like if you start name dropping individuals, then you miss people out. Is my
Good point.
Of there's so many people in there, so many food stylists, prop men, like department EPs, first AD, second ADs, all my the stills team. I think I have really good agents in Bailey Wade and Darling. And I think there's loads of people like yourself who kind of work for those guys and the regular team who know who they are. I came up in film and had a production company, which is still going, with a guy called Jason Underhill. And he kind of taught me a lot and was my kind of work wife for a number of years. I think it's nice to mention him. But I mean, just everybody under that umbrella. I don't have any, there's too many individuals to share at this point.
No, fair enough. And how do people reach out to you on the socials?
On socials, I'm on Grummett on Instagram, but it's just I know it's tragic, isn't it? ScottGrummett.com I think is always my bigger thing of the socials. Instagram, you'll see some lovely pictures of my dog. But I think the work and emails and phone calls, if anybody ever wants to talk about anything, that's the nicer way I chat to people. Yeah,
amazing. Well, look, thank you for coming on, dude. Really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man, and I know you've had probably a very, very busy 2 years. I know you've just come back from holiday, so you look refreshed. You look ready. I'm thanking you for your hours worth of time. Ladies and gents, if you like what you've heard or you know someone that wants to hear it, like, subscribe, and share to the podcast. And until we meet again, Film Familia. That is a wrap.
So that was a chat with the king or queen in the game. I'll give it a shout at the end so you all know the name. It's the Film Gods Podcast. The what? The Film God Podcast.